Hi there.
Hi, welcome to Curious Collection. I'm Will.
I'm Cinnamon.
Today we're going to talk about the 2024 retail apocalypse. Now, this is a premise that we're putting forth that we think that, with 18 months of consistent rate hikes from the Fed, putting pressure on all sorts of industries, including the homeowners market, the real estate market, the auto market, both being down, both being suppressed. Retail over Q4 grew at 5%. Now, if you think about 5%, that's not adjusting for inflation, which means that retail growth was flat for 2023. And what is that going to look like as we go through this year with these consistently high interest rates and the consumer continually being pressed, wages not keeping up, and the cost of goods going up or staying high? So we, in our current area, have seen dozens of Facebook ads for different people selling off their eBay inventory, closing down their eBay stores, closing their Poshmark stores. So this isn't just an eBay-related situation. This is, if you resell, you're going to be affected by this, in our opinion. So, we're going to talk about through the video what we're going to try to do and what you can try to do. And if you have ideas, please add them in. We've seen storage lockers that people are listing for sale on Facebook full of merchandise. Clearly, they're selling out their retail inventory and they just can't make a go of it. We've seen flea market booths full of inventory that they just can't make it go anymore. They want people to buy out their inventory. They want people to take over their rent because they can't continue to pay rent when they're losing money on their flea market booths. So it's hard to sell. It is really hard to be a reseller. It's really especially hard to be a full-time reseller.
And I don't think that people understand that going in, which is why we try to be so very transparent with the numbers, and our daily habits and the things that we're doing in our life to run this business, because it's a lot. And I don't think people understand that. Like family, right? Family and friends. They're like, oh, well, all you do is you just throw a couple things up on Facebook and then, or on or Facebook too. But you just throw some stuff up on eBay. Like that's not work.
Right. People think you take a couple pictures, you post a few words, and the items magically disappear and you're rich. Like I've talked to people, literally talking to them saying, well, you're going to be a 6-figure earner. You're going to be a 7-figure earner. Literally people tell me, oh, well, you're going to be a millionaire because you're selling items online.
Right.
And that just is not reality for the vast majority. It's like talking to a small child and they tell you want to be an NBA star. You could be if you're one in the 300 million people that's going to make the team this year, but most of us are not. eBay is the same way. Amazon's the same way. There are some big sellers. Most of us are small.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that do make the business hard, right? So, there's definitely economic stressors going on. So people buying right now, just trying to find a customer is super hard. We've talked about the fact that we try to keep our average price of our items less than $20. There's a reason for that. One, eBay's sales, their average item price is right around $20. But we were talking to our son today and we're like, well, the thing is, like, you can justify spending money if it's less than $20, right? You don't have to rework the budget for a $15 item. But when it's like $30 or $40, well, now I have to completely have like an existential crisis because my budget cannot afford excessive spending. And I feel like a lot of people are kind of in that same place right now.
Right. And I think that a lot of people, if push came to shove and they were asked, what do you consider to be excessive? What would ruin your budget? They wouldn't say, the $20 item. They would say the $50 item. If you got a flat on your car and just, I've been here. You
Mm-hmm.
you want to buy a used tire, not even a new tire. You want a used tire installed and balanced, $50 ruins your week.
Mm-hmm.
So, for us, we believe that the way that we're going to get through this is we're going to keep that cost of items down.
Right. So another hardship right now on resellers is that there are, we were talking about people having these Facebook ads where they're trying to get rid of their store. They're dumping inventory. So when
they're letting it go for so much less than what the items are actually worth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, that price point is still higher than what we can source it for.
Right.
So we can't very well source these individual pieces and resell them at a profit because, again, we're competing against other people that are dumping inventory in volume.
Right. But we can't compete. If they're like, we'll say jewelry because that's what I'm used to. I go and I look for my comps and there's people selling, the Sarah Coventry pieces for $5, $5 plus ship. Well, I can't compete with that. I mean, it has to be like the very bare minimum would be like $15 free ship for me, which is, because I've got to worry about eBay fees and cost of goods and my packaging and all of that. There's just no way I can compete with people that are just giving their stuff away. But I also can't buy items at $5 plus ship when it's a common Sarah Coventry, something like that. So
right.
I can't
so the
source
item's
it.
Legitimately worth $15.
Right.
They're going to let it go for $10, including shipping. And that $5 difference is
means
the
they're
profit
going to get
margin.
the sale.
Right. They're going to get the sale, but that's the profit margin. The $5 was the profit. So they're letting the item go for the cost that they paid.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no margin there. There's no way to make a profit.
No, but they're just getting out from underneath their inventory. So for them, that's the benefit. But it certainly hurts those of us who are trying to run a business.
Right. So another thing that we've seen is that just in the last 4 years, the amount of resellers has gone up dramatically. The amount of people who have bought programs, who've listened to the gurus that tell them that it's going to be magical and
All
they're
you
going to make millions of dollars. There's a lot of people who have flooded the zone on this and who, believe that they're going to make tons of money. So they've moved in. They've overpaid for inventory. They've bought up all the choicest pieces and still can't move them because the mass amount of sellers has flooded the market. Right. So it's caused sourcing to go up as well, not to mention the other financial pressures that we've talked about with interest rates.
But then the quality of the sourcing has gone down because the good pieces are getting like just sucked up super quickly. And all you're left with is like the secondhand stuff that maybe isn't as good, but you're going to pay more for it.
Right. So we actually talked to a couple of vendors just in the past couple of weeks. And that's what they told us. Now, we've bought things from both of them in the past, and they did have high quality merchandise that we were able to buy, say, a brooch for $2 to $3 a piece. Mm-hmm. And when we had talked to them about pricing, their prices are double what they were 2 months ago.
Right.
And for us, that doesn't work anymore. Mm-mm. So they're not going to get our sale because
we just can't afford it.
We can't afford it, and they're telling us that their input cost now is the $2 to $3 that we were paying.
Right. So they're not making any money either. And, so it's hard because you're getting squeezed from every direction. Right.
So, we've seen that the market is saturated with both products and sellers that are being dumped very cheap. And then we also see that the consumers, they don't have any money either. So they're trapped in, maybe they're trapped in a home mortgage that was more than what they could afford. Maybe that car payment that they got in 2020 is just far exceeding their means. Mm-hmm. And they can't get out of these things because the interest rates have increased since they made those purchases. So, the idea, I remember when I bought our first home, our interest rate was 7%. And that was 15 years ago. And the person tells me, well, you can go ahead and just refinance that. Well, in the interim, we had a housing crisis
Yeah.
in 2008, and the house lost 50% of its value. No bank in the world was going to refinance it because it was $50,000 or so underwater. We couldn't sell it because we didn't have $50,000 to basically
break
buy
even,
ourselves
right.
out of that mortgage. And so we were stuck there. We were stuck there for 15 years. We still ended up selling the house at a loss. And, of course, that was when housing rates were at the lowest. We could have refinanced it then, but we didn't want to be there anymore. So,
but a lot of people are running into those same problems now,
Right.
And then not only that, they have more options for buying. So when people, when the resale market went insane in 2020, people were trapped in their homes. So they couldn't just run to Walmart to go get their stuff, or they couldn't just, go to some local flea market to get stuff. Like, they were trapped in their homes, and they were doing shopping for their households, but also for their entertainment, or they were looking for more things to do in their home, like puzzles and arts and crafts and all of those things. So the market 4 years ago is a very different place than it is today.
Yes. And so we started our resale business right about the same time. Now, I have a much longer history of selling, clothing, Ralph Lauren polo shirts and that type of items back in the early 2000s when eBay was still relatively young, and I would have to wait for a check to show up in the mail, a physical check, and then I'd have to walk the item to the post office to get it shipped. So I remember, how easy it was to sell things then. When we went full time on eBay, I was selling puzzles. I was selling decks of cards. I was selling all sorts of games and different things. And literally, you would list something up and it would be gone in 2 days. I sold crock pots and toasters and blenders.
Yeah, cooking stuff was big. Pots and pans. Yeah.
Pyrex bowls. Any necessity that people needed, they would just buy it online. I would pack it up. I would ship it out. They'd have it in 3 days. And, it would fill that need that you weren't able to get from going to the local store.
Right.
If
You could do your retail, your retail therapy.
Right.
From the comfort of your own home.
If we were trying to sell toasters and pots and pans and crock pots today, puzzles,
Yeah.
I don't think that would be a business. I don't think that there would be enough demand in those categories today like there was in 2020 and 2021. So what are we going to do? Yeah, what are we going to do? There again, economic headwinds and competition. So there's going to be people that are going to drop out of this area. It is guaranteed to happen. It's already beginning. We're going to see a purge of resellers from all platforms, not just eBay. What is that going to look like for the rest of us? Because I believe it's going to get harder before it gets easier. We've seen some difficulty last summer with the amount of pressure across the board. Everyone's sales were impacted.
Yeah, there's the tax implications as well with those new tax laws with the $600.
Right.
That's another reason that some of the current resellers may be trying to step out of the market.
Right. So they're
So how do we stay in the market?
Right. So they are talking about revising that, potentially coming up with maybe a higher threshold, maybe $1,000. But either way, it doesn't honestly matter. If there is a mandate for that 1099 to be installed there, guaranteed people will drop out because they don't want to pay their taxes. What are we going to do? We're going to start by sourcing smarter. In our household, we've talked about we're going to shop our own inventory.
Yeah.
We're going to go through our unlisted inventory with a fine-tooth comb. Anything of value we're going to sell. Anything that's not valuable, we're going to get rid of. We're going to either wholesale it off or we're going to just trash it.
Yeah, we have not gone to the auction this year yet.
Right.
And that was our weekly thing. So our sourcing has just...
We've spent $28 this year. So we're 3 weeks into the year. We've spent $28 on sourcing.
Yeah.
We've spent $200 on packaging materials.
Right.
That's it.
But we're watching those pennies on our packaging material too. You know, he was going through Facebook and found an ad where someone was getting rid of some jewelry boxes that were a quarter of the price, or at least half the price of my normal boxes. So, you know, I was able to get that deal, you know, from shopping around.
Right. So that brings us to our next point. We're going to negotiate harder. We just have to. We're going to have to do it in our households. I suggest if you've got people that are supplying you, you need to press them in order to make sure that you're going to get through this as well.
Right.
The next thing we've got is that we're only going to be sourcing exceptional pieces or exceptional collections.
Yes. Yes, because the thing is, people have options, right? They have a million different sellers that are on eBay right now. And so we really need to make sure that we set ourselves apart, right? So that's the other thing that we want to do, is we want to set ourselves apart, whether it's that exceptional inventory that we have, you know, or whether it's our customer service, right? Because we are like Johnny on the spot answering every message that comes through. You know, we want to have that exceptional packaging, you know, so we're trying everything we can to set ourselves apart.
Right. One of the things we talked about is that we see the sellers out there. We see people that are desperate. This might be a time in 2024 to approach some of those people that are looking to get out of the industry and take advantage of the opportunity. You're going to do them some good if you put some cash in their hand for their inventory. Obviously, we're going to make sure that it's good inventory, but we're going to make sure that we are ready to go. In other words, we got the capital on the sideline waiting.
Right, because we're shopping our own inventory for the most part. So, and we're budgeting. So if we have limited output, then we'll have that available to us when we run into that person who's going, you know, I can't do this anymore. So I've got to sell out my inventory. That gives us an opportunity to go, okay, what do you need for us to be able to buy you out? And it can be mutually beneficial. We get the inventory that we need at a price that we can afford, and you get out.
Right. So we've talked about the exceptional pieces. We've talked about customer service, packaging. You know, we talk about it every week. We talk about it almost every day.
Right.
Is that, you know, you need to save your money on packaging, but you also need to make sure that your packaging is sufficient for your products
and high quality
and is going to set you apart.
Right. People, if you look at our comments on our store, everybody talks about the quality of the packaging.
Right.
It's important to your customers.
We want to make sure that we're maintaining our service metrics. We want to make sure that the items are getting shipped quickly, that we're shipping them properly in the correct packaging material. We want to make sure that items are not getting damaged in shipping.
They have good quality listings, good pictures, good descriptions. All of that is taken care of. And then,
and then finally, we're approaching this through a volume approach. I know a lot of people have talked about high average sale price and that they're going to limit the amount of items in their store. We're going to go the opposite direction. We're going to do high margin items, and we are going to approach it with a volume approach, and that we want to maintain our store over 12,000 listings and make sure that we consistently get over, 10, 15, 20 sales a day, because we're offering those items at the correct price points.
People can get volume discounts as well when they're buying multiple items, and they have more options to buy multiple items.
Right. So we've actually got multiple cases this past week. People came, bought items that were $6 a piece, spent over $100 in order to put their order together.
Right. They just buy a whole collection of photographs or brooches or things like that.
All right. So please let us know what your ideas are, how you're going to make it through the 2024 apocalypse.